I met the Grim Reaper. He's just some hot... Do you know what a tsundere is, Arief?
No, please enlighten me, Rino.
Do you get to name your plants?
You get to name your plants, yes. you 100% get to name your plants. I will create a Rino plant.
You're gonna kill it, aren't you?
Yeah, exactly. It's like that one just gets like blazing sunlight. And then
The more you torture yourself, the more popular you become as a streamer. I don't even know what's going on, but like it's like the more you do that, the more the audience loves it. It's crazy.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the 20M podcast, the show about games and the people behind them. Hello. My name is Arief, your co-host for today's episode. It's a very special episode, but before we get on with the rest of the stuff, I'd like to introduce the other amazing co-host, Rino. Rino, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you doing? How's everyone doing? Please respond right now.
Yeah, I don't know how they're supposed to do that. Just drop hello. It's like wherever you are. Just say hello out as you're listening or watching this. Rino, happy International Women's Day yesterday, 2 days ago. Happy International Women's Month. How are you feeling?
I feel really weird when people wish me that. I don't know if I should say thank you. It's like when people sing the happy birthday song to you on your birthday and you're just standing there like,
yeah.
Great.
It's like, let me sing along. You know what I mean? To my
It's cool. It's good. Like, seeing a lot of awareness during this month is a great thing. Hope it carries on throughout the year. But I'm always on the side of like, trying to be positive about how people are celebrating it. And I think we're going to talk about that a bit more in this episode, especially when it comes to games. Is that right, Arief?
Yes, that's exactly right. But before we get on to our main show, Rino, I want to remind everybody that, hey, welcome to the 20M podcast, folks. If you're new here, good hello. We're a podcast about games and the people behind them. We cover everything under the sun from AAA to indies. But we also feature some guest voices on the episode other than just me and Rino. Rino, what was last week's episode about?
It was our Final Fantasy VII Rebirth episode together with Genki, prolific Twitter influencer, all things Japanese games. Definitely check him out. I think we've got that in the episode. We'll link it somewhere here or somewhere there. But it was great. It was a great, cool episode.
Yeah, it was just super cool. And I think like talking about Rebirth, but also just get somebody like Genki, the aficionado on Square coverage, if you will, in Japan was just super cool. But I hope everybody's playing Rebirth. I hope like people are clocking in those hours. You're challenging your enemies in Queen's Blood, and you're running your girl squad in post story Rebirth scenario. I don't know, man. I just want to go back to playing Tifa. I really just want to go back to playing Rebirth and playing as Tifa because her moveset is flipping awesome.
I like the comment I got. There was like one comment on the video from the last time where they agree with me. They were like, "Oh yeah, like Tifa's totally not getting her dues. Like she's such a strong character, but like why is she always in the background?" Like, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but speaking of Tifa and speaking of women, Rino, this week is a really special episode. What's going on this week? This is a cool one for 20M, but this week is all about games from studios that either have women in I guess leadership positions or creating some of these games. But we just wanted to have an episode to celebrate the amazing women in the game dev side of things. But Rino, please walk us through what we're going to be doing this week on the episode.
Well, we took a lot of inspiration from Wings Interactive, where they've got I think it's like a Women's Month sale happening on Steam. But it's just a great, like whether you buy them out, there's like a lot of great demos that you can play and just a lot of great, showcasing games made by, women-led studios or people from gender marginalized communities. So a lot of the games that we're going to be talking about in this episode will be from there. And we'll also just do some regular shout-outs, I think, to some studios or some friends or games we've played before that we really love that are led by women or marginalized genders. We can just kind of go through our faves. I know you've played a couple of new ones, Arief. You want to tell us about them?
Yeah, sure. I'll start off with the first game that I played this week, and that game is an upcoming game. I guess by the time this episode launches, the game should have been launched. But a game by Death Trick a game called Death Trick Double Blind. And so this is a game.
Very well done.
Thank you. Yeah, this is a game that's really interesting. I mean, there's a lot of similarities on this side to a game that we've been covering over the past couple of weeks, like Ace Attorney. And I'll get into some of the mechanics of here. But I guess for those that want to know a little bit more about this game, I can't emphasize enough. Just look up the trailer and you'll kind of get it. And by that, as in like, go beyond that, go try, hopefully a demo is probably up, or try considering getting the game. And it's essentially like the best way I can describe it is kind of like a mystery detective game in which you play as a couple characters in the game, and you piece together clues to stitch together dialogue and interact with the characters there to try to uncover the story. And it's tough to kind of like give you the preface of the rest of the game because it's set in a circus. There's a death that happens early in the game. And you're basically trying to figure out how that death occurred, and it's very Ace Attorney style gameplay with a couple interesting surprises and additions. But I know this is also a game that you've tried out, Reno, in the past.
Yeah, I tried the demo, I think a couple of months ago. Again, I was really intrigued by the premise, being a big Ace Attorney and just general like visual novel mystery, murder mystery kind of fan. And I do really like the setting. I think circuses are always great, places of like mystery and wonder and intrigue. And I think that gives the writer, I mean, this is all without spoilers. I don't even know what the ending's going to be like because I just played the demo, but the premise gives a lot of room for creativity and, figuring out how to get to the conclusions because there's some like magical elements to it, or maybe not, maybe it's more sleight of hand, but I think it's very cool. And the art is really, really nice as well.
Yeah, and I think just on the positive side of things is like the art is probably one of the most mind-blowing things to me in this game, where it all feels really well crafted and incredibly well painted. And I think even from environment to environment, like part of the world is its music, but part of the world is also its character design, its character art. And let me tell you, I think the devs over here just kind of knocked it out of the park with character design, where each one of them just feel so unique and so interesting. And especially for a game that's like, I know, Reno, this is kind of your domain for visual novels, but it really draws you in when the characters, I think we've had this conversation so many times of the podcast, but like when the characters look a certain way or look really interesting that you want to speak to them, that kind of cajoles like maybe the gameplay side of things as well, even though it's pretty much a lot of dialogue and maybe some stitching of clues, if you will.
What are some other aspects that you liked about the game? Did you find like the presenting of clues and the sort of the storytelling quite intriguing as well?
Yeah, no, I mean, like, the only thing that I want to mention here is that, like, maybe what's different and what's interesting is that, like, yes, compared to Ace Attorney, there are, like, more interesting or I guess different mechanics that I'm not used to for these kinds of more visual novel type games or uncovering the mystery type games. One of the interesting things is, like, you have an AP meter and you have experience points as well that you can get for different tasks. So it also kind of like is almost like an RPG, which is something that I'm not super familiar with this type of genre of game. And so it actually limits the amount of time. So for example, one conversation or one clue point that you would bring up with the person you're having a conversation with costs 1 AP, and you only have a certain amount of AP per that scenario. So it's a really interesting resource management aspect, but then also there are ways to get experience points if you do certain things within that scenario, which is like follow up with certain people, get certain clues out, or get certain information out of some people. You'll also get experience. And I think this makes it a really like dynamic game that is not just I know we talked about this, and again, we have to bring up Ace Attorney for this conversation, but when you can kind of just autoplay in the new game that we mentioned in our review for Apollo Justice Ace Attorney, I think this one is much more dynamic than that. And it's one of the games where you can't particularly autoplay and just go along with the story too much.
Very cool, very cool. Yeah, awesome. Looking forward to when the game gets fully released, and well done to Misty Mountain Studio and Neon Doctrine.
Yeah, I'm really excited, and like I said, I think just major shout out to them because when I got exposed to this game, I think they had the Nintendo Direct they featured the devs for the Nintendo Direct, and it's just awesome to see again like two women. I believe they're from Asia as well, and it's like just to have them front and center showing off this game at the Nintendo Direct was an awesome gateway, and I think it's just one of the reasons why I want to start with that game on an episode featuring women devs. What about you? What other games have you been playing?
So in terms of demos, I was going through the page on Steam trying to find something kind of cool and interesting. Not that I'm all wholesomed out, but just I wanted something with a bit of an edge. And then there was like one game that looked really like a horror game. I was like, oh, that's cool. Clicked on it. And then I was like, oh no, that's too much. And then I went right back and I found another game, and it was called A Date with Death. And then the art looked kind of edgy as well. It's like, oh, maybe this is like kind of mild, but a little bit on the creepy side. Downloaded it. It's free to play, by the way. So if anyone's listening to this, you can download it yourself. It turns out it's not at all horror. It's a romance chat simulator. It's literally a date with the Grim Reaper. very much in your otome style romance simulator visual novel kind of game. I had a lot of fun with it. So in the beginning, you can kind of customize your character, and I do like good customization options. Customize your room as well. So it does add a little bit more of like a personal flair as opposed to most visual novels where it's just very passive and you just answer a question every couple of minutes. The character so far, yeah, I met the Grim Reaper. He's just some hot. Do you know what a tsundere is, Arif?
No, please enlighten me, Reno.
Like Oscar Langley is a tsundere. So like that, just like, oh, I'm not trying to be nice to you, all right? Like I just do it because I want to. That kind of vibe. So the Grim Reaper is like Oscar Langley, basically. It's wild. I think it's a great just like kind of like Sunday brain rot 2 hours of your life kind of thing. Maybe it will give you the same feeling as if you were like watching Gossip Girl for a couple hours, I think. So just like kind of juicy, but kind of like chill at the same time. You don't have to, you can turn your brain off, if that makes sense. But the art is really nice. I do like that. And the whole premise is I think you've just moved into like a dorm. You're like a college student. And then you get, this is again a very typical trope where you get an app appears on your phone, and no matter how many times you delete it, it keeps coming back, right? And then you click on the app, and it's like the Green Reaper is like, "Hey, I made this app so I could like reap your soul," and you're like I will report spam kind of thing. And he's like, "No, I'm not spam. I'm like, I'm real." And then you just go through this like ridiculous banter. But yeah, I'm intrigued enough to like keep going. I don't know if it's your kind of game, Arif, but it is just very funny.
Yeah, it's so funny. This is such a you game. Like even in the way that you describe it, even in its setting, it's such a you game. But I think I like again, and maybe we're just sticklers for art style and visual direction, right? But again, this one looks awesome. Like I'm just looking through the screenshots and watching the trailers as well, and it's like it's got so much character in it already. But I can't imagine how funny or how wacky it gets. So I mean, it looks super fun. If that's like a positive towards it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think it's I've never played a game by, I think it's called 2.5 Studios, and they seem to be really big on good art and lots of visual novels. So this is like a good entry point for me to go find a few more to check out for sure.
Yeah. I mean, it looks flipping great. I mean, like, what other games does it like really remind you of? Because I'm also getting a lot. Like, I just love that the character customization seems like I don't know, something that is so reminiscent of other games as well. But I don't know, it looks like a mishmash of so many, like you said, tropes or other games as well, but something that seems a little bit original. But I don't know, I just wanted to mention that I'm just getting more and more intrigued as I like flip through even more so of this game.
I do like the direction a lot of visual novels are taking, where they do try and make it a bit more interactive. So you're not just like, it's not just like literally a visual novel, like just reading text. And the customization, I don't know if our character gets much airtime. Like I made my character and haven't seen them since, but maybe it appears later on. But I do like those little touches. And then also just making your room a little bit prettier or making more to your taste, I think just gives the player at least a bit more of a sense of control and makes it feel like it's your own personal journey. But yeah, I just like visual novels. They're a great way to just imagine like you're on your like Steam Deck or on your Switch, you're just cozy, just up there and just like, oh, meeting new hot person here.
No, completely. I've been just on the two notes of that you just brought up there, which is cozy and then doing up your room. Another game that I've been playing is called Window Garden.
Yeah.
And I think we were just talking about this right before the right before the podcast started. But basically, like Window Garden is, I love this little like pitch that they have. It's like it's just like a lo-fi idle game and grow plants in a cozy cottage. And like I know we're going back to the wholesome energy and like we went from death to like growing plants. But just to your note, I mean like this game, and again for all those that are probably checking out the video side of the podcast here, right? It's essentially you grow your own plants. It's on Apple and Android devices, and you're just managing your own garden. And this is it's not that it's not original. It's like it's pretty familiar concepts and games that have also multiple games that are in this genre. But the reason why I got exposed to this is because I believe it's a Filipino developer as well, a solo dev. And I know she's been building this for the past couple of years, and I've been eyeing it for the past couple of years. And it's finally come to iOS, so I finally got to try it out. But it is the epitome of just decorate the heck out of this beautiful area, and that's the game. That's the whole game. Like that's the idleness of it. And water your plants, sure, and play some mini games, sure. But I just love this genre of yes, you just get. Like literally, I've been playing this in bed on my phone, just like cozying it up and just setting up plants. So it's been very vibey. It's been very lo-fi. It's been very fun.
I like the genre too. I don't think like the mechanic wise, it might be just very similar to other things like I don't know, Neko Atsume, Usagishima, just things like where you're just like decorating stuff and looking after cute things. But like for games like this, I think the art style and the feeling you get, like the feedback you get when you play it makes such a big difference. And like similar to like how you love Stardew, I love Harvest Moon, or we both love Coral Island. It's like it's skinned in a different way. But like for me, I love the way Coral Island looks, even though mechanically it's very similar to other games. So I think visuals for this particular genre are like super important. It's just it's the vibe, right?
Yeah.
Awesome.
And it's like the entire experience of it, and maybe just some love for Window Garden is that you start, much like any other game, extremely simple, but it's just got this sense of tone with its pixel art and its music choices as well, and just the color palette that it's playing with. And to the point where I'm literally just got a notification right now, like, catch falling gold and suns for your plants. Spin now and get a free. Like it seems almost like they're calling me back to like, hey, make sure your plants are flipping alive. Like despite how pretty your entire area is, like come back to the game. But I want to like throw some love because I think it's Usagishima was a game that I did try before, and maybe it's just like the activeness of bunnies like stressed me out. You know what I mean? Same thing with Neko Atsume, and it's like, oh my god, like what the hell? What are they doing in the corner there? And I love that. But there's something about plants where they're just sitting there. It's just like I will water you, and I will walk away, and I don't feel as like you're gonna cause chaos on my life. But yeah, I've been really enjoying Window Garden, and again, like you know how much we love Southeast Asian games, and like this is definitely one of them I want to champion. But again, major love to again, maybe I don't know. I don't know if she's solo. I think she's solo dev with this project. There could be other people. I could be completely wrong. But throw some love because also we don't tend to cover mobile exclusive games, or I guess especially when we talk about the indie ecosystem, we tend also not to talk about games that are exclusive to mobile as well. So go check out Window Garden.
Do you have a favorite plant? Do you get to name your plants?
You get to name your plants, yes. You 100% get to name your plants. And I so want to pull up my plant names. I just have been doing the automated one for now, but I will create a Rino plants. And
you gotta kill it, aren't you?
Yeah, exactly. It's like that one just gets like blazing sunlight, and then it's like the Brian plant in the corner is doing fabulously. You know what I mean? It's like getting all the love and attention. Yeah, but it's again like when you talk about games with these small mechanics, like all these small things are because we're so used to games that we want those things out of games. So I love when developers are actually like again gamers at the end of the day, and like they just implement all these things that whatever you think you want, we will probably have in these games. So I just love that we're at that state of video games as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. What a cool game. I definitely need to get more stuff on my mobile for sure. I really only just have Hoyoverse games. Just true travesty. So I'm going to check that out after this.
Yeah. What else? What other games have you been playing later?
Well, to kind of go full circle with like Murder Mysteries, this was a game that I played, I think towards the end of last year, but it is highlighted as, like a women-led studio. So this one is Whispers in the West. Developers are Infinite Wise, but it's also been co-published by Wings as well. I played this back, I don't know if we talked about this already, but I played it with June, I played it with Jared, a friend of the podcast, and also play with Sundering Studio. So it is a online co-op for like 1 to 4 players, and it's set in the Wild Wild West. You go, the map shows you different areas like, sheriff's office, like, I don't know, tavern, I think it's called saloon, like different areas. And then a mystery, something has happened. Maybe someone has died or someone has stolen money. And then it's interesting because like it's online and you can all explore different parts of the map independently, and you're all gathering clues together. And depending on the character you have, you can do different things. So like, I think if you're like the deputy, you command a bit more authority. So certain people will tell you their stories. But then like the sketchier people are like, oh, I don't talk to cops. The equivalent of cops, I guess. And then they don't talk to you. So depending on which character you select at the beginning, you have a different usefulness to your team. And then you all come together and piece together like what happened, like storyline wise, like oh who did it, just answering these 3 or 4 questions, and then you get the outcome at the end.
Yeah, I remember I remember looking up the gameplay when y'all played it as well, and it did look like that awesome, fun, dynamic, like co-op aspect. And again, it goes back to this thing where it's like we cover a lot of independent games, we cover a lot of like I guess AAA games on our side as well, and most of them are independent, independent in like a solitary experience, like single player games. And whenever we have these more co-op ones, I feel like it's always a reminder of how wide the games ecosystem is, but also how you can have similar concepts like you mentioned, but also have that be a game that you can play with friends too.
Yeah. It's cool. I think yeah, actually that's right. Like I first came across the game because they were exhibiting at Bit Summit last year, so it was really great to see them out here in Japan. But yeah, I love mystery games. The art style is really cool. The Wild Wild West is not like a setting I normally engage with, but it's again just a great era, a great period to have these types of mysteries. It is really hard though. I think we played 2 rounds and we like dramatically failed the last round if I remember correctly. But also it also gave me that sense of like, have you ever played like Cluedo with friends, like over like the board game?
Yep.
Yeah, that kind of vibe. But like, it's online because we're all in different parts of the world and that sort of thing. So I think it's cool that it's managed to capture that feeling of like co-op. Oh, I guess Cluedo isn't co-op, but that kind of vibe onto the digital space.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Play more games with your friends is like the takeaway, the takeaway there as well. Yeah, I mean, like on the note of some other games, I know we also just wanted to cover and talk about some of the games that maybe not games that are like coming out imminently or a showcase as part of the Wings Steam event as well, and maybe some of them actually are. But I just want to go back and just maybe talk about like games again led by women, and even though the studios might not have been co-founded by them, it's just like these are games that like just are so flippin' phenomenal and are spearheaded by women. And like one of them that I will always, like Kingdom Hearts is one of those things that I'll always bring up. Evangelion is one of those things that I'll always bring up. Whenever we talk about independent games, and especially Southeast Asian independent games, I always want to give some love and shout out to When the Past Was Around, an Indonesian indie game made by Mojikin Studio and published by Toge Productions as well. And I think Chorus as well came on as console publishers for that one. But I feel like I haven't talked about When the Past Was Around enough on this podcast in a long time, and I need to give its flowers to Rina and the rest of the team, where it's like, this is one of my favorite independent games of all time, and it's beautiful, and I know y'all are probably looking it up, seeing this right now, and it's just one of those. It's also, I guess, like more of a visual novel kind of thing with puzzle mechanics throughout, but it is one of the most beautiful experiences I've ever played in my entire life, and it makes me cry every single time I play it. And I'm looking at my giant When the Past Was Around desk mat right in front of me as I'm talking about this. But yeah, I just want to again, talk about maybe things that are on the opposite side of things. Again, more of a individual experience. This is one that I can't recommend enough, where you should really just cuddle up and like by yourself and be immersed in this game for the hour and a half, 2 hours of it, and then just experience the beauty of independent games.
I get a reminder about this every time I look at your Steam icon, and it's the owl.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, what's that about? I gotta check it out at some point. But yeah.
Yeah, and I think exactly, it's like I literally have like their collectible items like to the corner here, the keycaps, and like I just love this game so much. And maybe for those that are listening to the podcast and maybe have been in the know of the recent the state of independent games, like A Space for the Unbound was nominated for Games for Impact at the Game Awards, and this is from the same studio as well. So I think I weirdly prefer When the Past Was Around over A Space for the Unbound, but I think both games are well deserved of their flowers. So I just want to give some love that way to amazing developers, and especially Rina, who's again a friend and just so flipping talented with her art and her storytelling.
That's awesome. And then I guess like since we're down the shout out territory, I know we both want to talk about Fishbowl. So you want to quickly mention the big news about Fishbowl that we heard recently?
Yeah, well, I just want to mention that I think if I'm understanding the verbiage correctly, so Fishbowl is one of the games that was accepted as part of the India Hero project by PlayStation. And I'm not terribly familiar with the project and its mechanics as of right now, but I understand that they were scoping out independent games specifically in India to bring onto the PlayStation ecosystem and provide them support and whatever have you. But the game will be coming to PlayStation. And I just think that that's just an amazing validation for an independent game, no matter where they are in the world, to have that kind of support and commitment from a major publisher like that, or a major platform like that. So yes, Fishbowl has been kind of popping up a little bit more in the news as of the past 2 weeks or so because of the accolade on that side. But Rino, you know the Fishbowl folks so much better than I do, and you've been a much stronger advocate. As much as I do love that game, let's talk about Fishbowl.
Yeah, so I first saw Fishbowl. I think we both saw it because we saw it on the Wholesome Direct sometime last year. But I was able to meet the devs in person because they came down to Bit Summit and they were so lovely. So shout out to Ria and Pratik for just being awesome people. I think it wasn't me who started it, but obviously this just is a testament to how great they are. Someone had tweeted around the time being like the Fishbowl devs should win like nicest devs at Bit Summit award kind of thing because that's just how cool they were. Yeah, the game is, I guess, one of those like games born out of the pandemic because there's like strong themes of isolation. And I think from what I understand, most of the game is going to happen within the protagonist's house, a girl named Alo. And it's, again, this period, I don't think they actually say like, oh, this is the pandemic, but she, for whatever reason, she's like isolated from her family and friends and she's just in this house. And then there's like mini games where I think you work as a video editor. So you kind of need to like move videos into different parts to like, keep at your job. But then there's also lots of little interaction points inside the house where you can like, there's an actual fishbowl in the house, for example. And then there's like the bed and then, talking to different things triggers a different response. That's all I've seen so far. They don't seem to have a demo online yet, but if you go to your next event where Fishbowl is at, you can probably try out the game.
Yeah, and they're also like follow their social handles as well because they're just amazing people who interact with not just and this is like the beauty of the indie ecosystem. Like they also are big advocates and supporters of other independent games, and I just love when other indies kind of like band together in that kind of aspect. So yes, beyond their game, which I bet will be amazing, and I really want to text the both of them and be like, please, is there an old demo build that I could just play, please, for the love of God? Because like I've missed the demo. I don't maybe it's available right now or whatever have you. It's like I just need to play this game so badly. But yeah, I can't wait. And I know again the fact that maybe this episode is also not just about the games, right? But the 20M podcast is literally about games and the people behind them. I think we want to make sure to highlight the individuals that we've interacted with that are also amazing people that contribute to the greater games ecosystem. And I think Fishbowl so far has been like a shining example of like just the beauty of this industry.
Yeah, they're awesome. I do have two other games I want to talk about, and they're a little bit not cozy. I think I haven't tried this game personally. I have followed it for a while, but I call it the anti-cozy game. It's a game called Birth. I think the dev is
Yes.
her name is Madison Carr, and then it's again self-published and then also supported by Wings. And have you seen the art, Arief? It is like the cozy art, but it is like messed up. It's a game about how, even though it's called Birth, I feel like it's more about death because it's a game where you're alone and you have to build a creature or your partner out of scraps around the place. So like bones, organs, things like that. And it's done in this cool like storybook art style, not too dissimilar for something that's like When the Past Was Around, but just like because it's so much like, I don't know, carnage, reminders of death, bones, skulls, things like that. It's just like, whoa, like what is going on? This is like, again, like what I call like as the anti-cozy game.
Yeah, it does, because like I remember you brought this up in passing on a couple episodes ago, and I did look it up, and I'm like, wow, this is awesome. But yeah, you're right. It is of the same ilk of When the Past Was Around, in my opinion. It's like it's got that same kind of color palette as well, the same type of gameplay mechanics and all that kind of stuff. But you're right. It is. There's something twisted, like hauntingly beautiful about it. Where it almost seems cozy and warm and wholesome, but the subject matter is actually something else, right? So or even the art style. So I mean, this one is just one of those ones where again you pull up a trailer and it's like I need to wish list that right now. So that's the feeling that I get from Birth.
Yeah, I think when we talk about those like buzzwords like genre defying, I feel like this kind of feels like that because it's not quite cozy, but it's also not quite anything else that I feel like it would still fall into cozy somehow. But I guess it just depends on, we'll both check out the game and see what really happens here. I'm literally just looking at this screenshot and I think it's like a rat where it's just got a skull and then like you can see the inside of his body, but kind of looks cute in a way. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the last one I want to bring up, which is absolutely not cozy at all, is darkwebSTREAMER. We haven't talked about this one in a while, but Chantal is a great friend on the internet. She's fantastic, a super, super strong women in dev advocate. And her game is something that will freak me out, but I'm going to steel myself and play it. And I think you will too in the end, Arif, because it's just one of those like really intriguing ones. It's inspired by the 90s dark web, back with dial up and things like that. So the game has that aesthetic to it. It's a horror RPG sim where you're trying to become a big time streamer. So, instantly a game like Needy Streamer Overload might kind of come to mind, which is also a little bit dystopian in a way. But this one is like what I think, the more you torture yourself, the more popular you become as a streamer because you're literally your theme is the dark web, right? So you want to show people messed up things you find on the internet, or you might want to conduct like seances just for your viewers. But the more you do that, I think the more horrifying spirits and ghosts come and like possess you. I don't even know what's going on, but like it's like the more you do that, the more the audience loves it. It's crazy.
Yeah, and it's like I've never met Chantal, and it's like, but from the stuff that from what I've heard, and also obviously the Twitter stuff that I've seen as well, this game just seems so interesting and weird and like in a way, it's not wacky as in like it's whimsical, and maybe like there are aspects that are whimsical, but it's just like it's so obscene, but in a way that is like the creativity is kind of like off the charts, and I don't know where it'll end up, if you will, but it's one of those ones on my list where it's like I know exactly the visual cues in my mind when I hear the name, darkwebSTREAMER, and it's like that's such a cool thing to have for a game where it's like you kind of know exactly what direction they're trying to go into just by hearing hearing the names or whatever have you. So I mean I've always been kind of excited to check that one out. But yes, I know we're not the cozy podcast, so let's embrace death and let's embrace chaos a little bit more.
We say that, and then like I still flash back to when we used to stream together and we played Simulacra, and that was I think games like this where they try and make a commentary about like societal issues and technology, like it can be really difficult and sometimes can come off as a bit kind of like I don't know if it's like cliche. Like movies like something like The Social Network, when people try to do stuff about contemporary technology, it always comes off as a bit too, I don't know, on the nose. But I really think darkwebSTREAMER has something going for it here. And then the last thing I want to add is like, I love the love letters that they send to like World of Horror, because clearly both games occupy very similar camps with like horror and the aesthetic.
Yep.
So I love when devs, support each other's work as well.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I guess like outside of the games itself, again, with this episode kind of being a focus on just highlighting, International Women's Month, if you will, or celebrating people that are contributing to the space at that part of games. I also want to give some love and shout out, and I didn't preface this to you, but I just remembered that the amazing folks at WIGI as well have just started an Asia mentorship program, and I want to give a major shout out. Obviously, I think there was a panel or there was a session run by Aisha and Luna, who are also Southeast Asian, Malaysian and Filipino developers who are advocating for this space, but also organized by NISI as well. So just there seems to be so much going on in the Southeast Asian region to support women developers. I know it's the indie space is small here, the indie space is growing here, but all these kinds of initiatives and all these kinds of programs are, I think, really push the envelope to make sure that people can get better connected, and especially for women in independent games, or maybe not even in independent games, and games in general. So I don't know. It's just such an awesome program. I had to mention it on the podcast.
Yeah, for sure. Congrats to them, and whatever we can do to support, I'm sure we'll be doing that as well.
Yes.
Cool. All right. I think that kind of brings us to all the games we got to try, all the games we love and can't wait to be released. Where to now, Arief?
Just like that's it. No, and like I said, I mean, Rino, we just wanted to like maybe we can close this episode just by just acknowledging again the amazing strides of the people in this ecosystem. Like whether it be because when we do episodes of independent games, we do episodes about our big reviews. I think like those chunks are always reserved for those types of topics, but this one is like such an important one for us to highlight as well, because again, it's beyond games, it's beyond just the titles that you play, it's beyond the consumer, it's about building up the ecosystem. So I just want to make sure to reflect and like close this episode by saying like, hey, like the people that are making, like, give some love for the people that are making games, get to know them a little bit better. Like, don't just follow their games, like obviously play their games, wishlist their games, support the developers, support the publishers, but really highlight and get to know the people that are championing amazing causes, whether it be getting more women in development in games, or just building up the ecosystem. Like, I just want to make sure that like people know who are listening to the 20M podcast, like that's kind of what we stand for as well, and not just the reviews and not just the like, hey, we'll talk about the games on a consumer level.
That was great. That was awesome. And yeah, happy International Women's Day, Women's Month. Let's make it Women's Year at some point.
All right. Well, if you want to check out more episodes of the 20M podcast, like Rino mentioned earlier, we talked about 5IC7 Rebirth, and we did our first full impressions video with Genki, amazing Twitter personality who also has a YouTube channel that y'all can check out. But that one was a really fun one. And then you can check out some of our previous reviews of some games as well. But hey, if you're listening to this, come back, hang out, hit the subscribe button, watch some of the clips that we've been putting out, and just start the conversation around games and the funny, wacky, weird stuff in them that we all can enjoy, but also take very seriously. It's a very serious games podcast. And that's what I want people to walk away from. Yeah, just pure, like we don't mess around here.
Absolutely not. All right. Well, thanks everyone. Thank you for tuning in. We will see you next time. Take care. Bye.